He was an older dog, and she picked him because she thought that he would get looked over for adoption compared to the younger dogs. Her backyard did not have a proper fence, but the dog was very good at staying nearby, so she would leave him unattended from time to time. However, after some time, the dog started coming home with dollar bills. This went on for a while, until one day, the police were at the door. Was this because of the dog? And why was the dog even coming home with money anyway? But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. To better understand this story and its significance, some backstory is required. Cindy was a 25-year-old woman living alone in a nice suburban neighborhood. The last couple of Cindy's relationships had not been great. After doing some research about pets that made good companions, however, she decided that she was going to go to the shelter and adopt a dog. She decided on an older dog named Toby. She wanted to give him a good rest of his life. First couple of months with him around went very well. Toby came home, inside, one evening like usual, and Cindy prepared his food. He waited patiently in the dining room as she fixed up his kibble and wet food. However, as she was bringing him his bowl, she realized that something was different about Toby. Something had been tucked into his collar. On the collar was a little bag. She opened the pouch and discovered something even more surprising. The pouch was filled with dollar bills. Cindy counted them, was shocked, and then counted them again. Could this really be happening to her? Cindy's mind was full of questions. What was Cindy supposed to do now? Should she go to the police? Cindy mulled around the idea of calling the police, but decided that they weren't really going to help her if she'd found the money. Instead, she called a friend. Cindy did not tell her friend about the money she found. She kept that secret to herself. Instead, she asked if her friend would like to go out to dinner with her. Cindy even elected to pay for everything. Her friend, of course, accepted the offer for dinner, but she was stunned when she arrived at Cindy's house. Cindy was wearing a very expensive outfit. Her friend had no idea how she had paid for it. Cindy wasn't known for being the type to have a lot of extra cash lying around. When they arrived at the restaurant, Cindy's friend was in for an even bigger surprise. Cindy had made a reservation at Burns Steakhouse, an expensive restaurant in Tampa, Florida. Cindy's friend asked how Cindy had managed to pay for the new outfit, and now for dinner, given what her friend already knew about her. Cindy had several options for answering her friend, but what she said will blow your mind. Cindy told her friend that she had gotten a new job with a top salary. This, of course, was certainly not the case. Cindy, meanwhile, was getting herself into trouble. Cindy thought it was quite convenient that every time she let the dog out to wander around outside, he would come back with a pouch full of money. She stashed the money aside each time and used it to fulfill her fantasies of living big. One day, Cindy got the mail, and an unexpected letter was waiting for her in the mailbox. Mysteriously, the sender was someone she didn't recognize. The letter was written entirely in Chinese. Cindy went to translate it, and when she read through the translation, her chills turned into feeling sick to her stomach. The letter, when translated, said, "We gave you the money. Now leave us alone. We'll finish the dog off when it gets back to us to clear all tracks." What was the letter going on about? For a moment, Cindy didn't know what to do anymore. What was she even supposed to do? Should she call the police? She couldn't go to her friend, because then her friend would find out that Cindy had made it all up about her new job. Cindy decided she was going to keep entirely quiet. She hoped that no one would find out that she had even received the money. Then, she nearly jumped out of her skin when the doorbell rang. When Cindy opened up the door, the police were standing there. Did this have anything to do with the dog? She could barely even speak. The police asked Cindy if they could come in. She had no choice but to let them. She was afraid the police were there because of the dog and the money. But it soon became clear that the police knew nothing about the dog at all. So why had they come to see Cindy? Cindy was so full of questions. See, it had something to do with Cindy's behavior. See, Cindy's friend had heard about Cindy's fancy date with this new guy. Her friend also thought it was strange that Cindy had bought an expensive outfit and paid for a fancy dinner. Cindy's friend had told the whole friend group about this, while telling all of them not to tell Cindy or anyone else about this. One of the friends thought this whole thing sounded very fishy. The new guy, the new clothes, the sudden money. The friend decided to call the police and explain the story. She told the police that Cindy was not at all capable of paying for such things. The police naturally understood that the friend wanted to do a well check on Cindy. They made all the arrangements to check up on Cindy and moved forward with their plans. So, back to the police. They entered Cindy's house. This was the reason they gave. The police wanted to talk to Cindy about her safety. They said more and more women had been in Cindy's situation in the past. They didn't want the same thing to happen to Cindy. Cindy thought the police were referring to the dog and the money. The point the police were trying to get at was that they wanted to protect Cindy from a potential predatory man. Cindy became very angry at the officers. How could they say such a thing? Her date was a nice young man, and he certainly wasn't the one who was funding her. She had paid for his dinner after all. Cindy had grown somewhat proud of her new monetary status. When Cindy revealed all of this, the officers were very surprised. The agents asked how she could possibly afford so many expensive dinners if she wasn't getting money from a man. Cindy finally decided to be honest. She couldn't avoid it any longer. She told the police about the dog. The officers asked Cindy to come with them to the police station, but what happened next was shocking. The police had been researching some interesting goings-on in the city recently. Strange happenings. Money coming from nowhere, people going missing, illicit items being sold on the black market. They asked Cindy for permission to search her entire house. They were beginning to think that Cindy was engaged in illegal practices, selling illegal substances to make this much money. She consented to the search and said she was really telling the truth. Then, she suddenly remembered that she had received the letter. Cindy brought this up with them. The investigating agents went to the house and looked at the letter Cindy provided. One agent looked at the other and said, "We've seen this before. In fact, we've got another one on our hands." The agents began the full search of her house, which she had already consented to. Then, they discovered something remarkable. As they searched the rooms, they saw a pouch lying on a dresser. The pouch was exactly as Cindy had described it in her dog story. They took the pouch to the desk to examine it further. Inside the pouch were several dollar bills. Had Cindy put these there to make her story seem more legitimate? The agents confronted Cindy. Just then, a woman came into the police station. Suddenly, a lot of things came together. The lady who came in was Cindy's neighbor. She had seen the shenanigans going on at Cindy's house and wanted to provide what information she had. She told the officers that she had been seeing a dog walk into Cindy's house for the past week. However, there was something suspicious about it. In fact, the neighbor had seen this dog being put in front of Cindy's door several times over the past week by some strange man. By now, the house search was finished. The officers, of course, found nothing suspicious that would tie Cindy to any illegal activity. The police decided to watch Cindy's house until the dog or the stranger appeared. Once their plan was set, it was time to put it in motion. It did not take long for them to figure it out. The very next day, Cindy let the dog out as planned. The dog wandered off into the nearby woods. The cops waited. Several hours later, a man drove up and dropped the dog back off. The police arrested him at once. You'll never believe who this man was. The man belonged to the mafia. The dog was the go-between to pay someone off. When the dog was adopted from the shelter, things got completely mixed up. Cindy was allowed to keep the cash she'd already gotten, but would have to keep the dog indoors. Everyone else was arrested. Since Cindy wasn't getting daily money from the dog anymore, she would need to be more frugal. She was mostly glad she wasn't in jail.